Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about the 300 Blackout. Okay, I don't own any 300 Blackout uppers. Okay, I have shot them. I've trained people on them. And the nice thing about the 300, getting about the 300 Blackout is that you can just get an upper for your existing AR-15 and just switch out the uppers, and basically now you can go from shooting a 5.56 to shooting that 300 Blackout, and basically what you're shooting is a 30 caliber. Okay, and it's the 300 Blackout is very similar ballistically to the round that the AK-47 shoots. Okay, so a lot of people like doing it. Me personally, I don't like doing it, and I'll tell you why. It's very easy for that 300 Blackout, okay, which is a 30 caliber, to end up, to get mixed up with the other ammunition and end up in an AR-15 that's chambered for 5.56. Okay, and basically what's going to happen there is you're trying to shoot a 30 caliber bullet out of a 22 barrel gun. And what that usually results in is the barrel blowing up in your face. Okay, so that's something I want to avoid. And given what I do, where a lot of times I'm going to different locations, training people. A lot of times what I'm doing is I'm doing these malfunction drills where while they're shooting, okay, I'm inducing malfunctions. Usually by sticking something in the ejection port, or putting dummy rounds in their magazines. So what's happening is that while people are shooting, they're getting jams, and as part of the exercise, they now have to unjam the gun, and what that usually results in is live ammunition falling on the ground. Okay, and at the end of that particular exercise, what people will usually do is they'll usually pick up that ammunition, that live ammunition on the ground, and so that they can use it again. Well, if I have one guy in that group or two guys in that group that are shooting the 300 Blackout, there's too high of a chance that that person's ammunition is going to accidentally get picked up by somebody else, and it's going to end up in their gun, and now they're trying to shoot a 30 caliber bullet out of a 22 caliber gun. So when I do get a situation like that, what I usually try to do is I try to get that guy off in the corner by himself, separate from the other people, and I make all the other people aware that, listen, that guy, make sure his ammunition doesn't end up in your gun. Okay, so it's easy enough, but it does create an extra stress for me that I really don't need. So if there's any way I can avoid it, I'm going to avoid it. And one of the ways I avoid it is by just not having 300 Blackouts in my inventory. Okay, now I do have, for example, AK-47s, and you might say, well, that's got a 30 caliber, that shoots a 30 caliber round. Isn't there the same risk? Well, the AK-47 round will not chamber into into an AR-15. Basically, the case is bigger so that the bolt will not close. With the 300 Blackout, if you try to put that in an AR with a that shoots 5.56, it is possible for that bolt to close because the two cartridges, the cases, are the same size. It's just that one is necked for a 22, the other one's necked for a 30. They may not always, that it may not always close. The bolt may not always close, but sometimes it will close. One possibility is that the bullet gets pushed back into the cartridge. Okay, and that forces that allows the bolt to close. So there's been many cases of AR-15s blowing up because a 300 Blackout accidentally ended up in there. Okay, so that's the reason why I don't have, why I normally don't shoot 300 Blackout, and I don't have any guns in my inventory that shoot that 300 Blackout. Now, there's many good reasons to have, a 300 Blackout upper. One of which is if you're planning to get a suppressor. Okay, now. And the benefit of that is because with the 300 Blackout, you're able to, normally the bullets come in at like 122 grains, which are supersonic, okay, but you can get a heavier bullet, let's say 220 grains, that's going to slow it down so that it's going at subsonic speeds, and that's going to basically work that much better in a suppressor, because basically the suppressor now, the suppressor basically does. The main purpose of the suppressor is to slowly let out the pressure, so you don't have that dramatic pressure change that causes a lot of the loud sound. But the bullet ripping through the air at supersonic speed, that also causes a very loud crack. And by shooting a heavier bullet that goes at subsonic speed, it eliminates that part of the equation as well. So you end up with a much quieter, bullet going through the air. So that's another reason for why people like that 300 Blackout. For me personally, I mean, getting a suppressor is just too much trouble for me. Until they pass the Hearing Protection Act, where I can just go to a gun store and go through a quick background check and take it home, I'm really not going to bother with the suppressors. Okay, so that's my personal thought on that. I mean, I think it's wonderful. I think everybody should have it. I think it should be almost a standard. I think almost all guns should be sold basically with a suppressor, because to me it's basically a good neighbor policy. To be shooting your guns suppressed so that they can't be heard as far away. But until that law changes, I mean, this is where we're at. Now, going back to the 300 Blackout, another thing for you guys to keep in mind is that the Russians started out with the AK-47 that shoots that 30 caliber, and over the years they've moved to the AK-74, okay, which shoots the 22 caliber. So the Russians went from 30 caliber to 22 caliber. I have to think that there's a good reason why they did that. So, that's just something else for you guys to keep in mind, with as far as the 300 Blackout and whether or not it's worth the trouble of getting it or not getting it. But like I said, my main concern is safety. I train lots of people. A lot of times I end up with loose ammunition all over the place where we're picking it up, throwing it into boxes and kind of recycling it and shooting it again. And I can't take a chance of that 300 Blackout ending up in a 5.56 AR and then blowing the gun up. Talk to you guys next time.